Welcome, Njingiwala. Today's presentation is aimed at a Stage 5 classroom setting with a range of abilities and backgrounds and looks specifically at Chapter 15 of the Harper Lee novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. The cohort that I will be addressing is a Year 9 class comprised of 26 students, including 5 students with low literacy, 2 gifted and talented students, 4 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, 2 students on the autism spectrum, and 1 who speaks English as a second language. These factors will help to form the lesson and will be the subject of my discussion and justification of teaching techniques. This lesson is the second in a series of 4 that will be explicitly taught in order. Before engaging in this series of lessons, it is necessary to have a basic grasp of the book, To Kill a Mockingbird, particularly, or at least, of Chapter 15. In the last lesson, the text type, persuasive text, is discussed and explicit examples are examined. The second lesson in the series focuses on consolidating the first lesson's materials and producing an original, inventive prose that persuades. I decided to use the cultural heritage and growth models of teaching in this class in order to fully support the pupils. The growth model places a strong focus on the use of language and students' personal experiences as a teaching tool. It is my decision I chose to employ a student-centred approach, which Sawyer defines as an active pursuit of English in which students engage in enjoyable and fruitful language activities that are appropriate to their needs, interests, and capacities. The To Kill a Mockingbird persuasive writing lesson serves as an example of this strategy by connecting the plot, themes, and characters to particular student experiences. The moral authority of the text, in Sawyer's words, is what the concept of cultural legacy is all about. The plot of To Kill a Mockingbird frequently raises issues of unfairness, conflictive notions of justice, and racial prejudice. In Chapter 15, Scout calms down a raging mob by asking Mr. Cunningham to introduce his son or her classmate. In this instance, we see innocent purity triumph over a hostile throng. This scene is inspiring and unforgettably memorable. Because of Scout's attempt at manners, Mr. Cunningham sees her intrinsic goodness and responds to her with decency and kindness. The events of that evening show that a band of wild monsters can be stopped merely because they are still human, as Atticus later says. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee conveys the important and relevant point that if we as people can learn to accept one another and set aside our preconceived views about others, we'll be better able to understand them, prevent conflict, and establish new relationships. Students who struggle with English will be more engaged in the material if they can actively participate and communicate with their own experiences and emotions. The growth model notion is best illustrated by the creative writing assignment, which mixes the concepts, characters, and plot of To Kill a Mockingbird with the students' own experiences. The job heavily emphasises speaking and writing, in addition to self and peer evaluation. Students in this session will essentially collaborate to discuss whether they agree or disagree with Atticus Finch's viewpoint in the book. After this think, pair, share discussion, participants once more work together to develop the main concepts of this persuasive writing on the accompanying pro forma while soliciting peer feedback and doing self-evaluation. The job will then be started by each student when they separate. To fulfil the demands of the diverse group of students with a range of skills, the lesson's specialised teaching tactics and pedagogies call for collaborative learning in small group settings, peer response and editing, reflection, think, pair, share dialogues, and explicit and updated instructions. When students are working in small groups, they can safely share their creative ideas, which helps anxious students to feel heard and included. Low literacy students require careful instruction and modelling, which, according to Pillen, is effective in educating these students. Speaking aloud can be challenging for students with lower reading skills, particularly ESL students, which is why small groups for collaborative purposes are intended and successful. All students, including those who are gifted and talented, can gain from these collaborative learning opportunities, helping to achieve educational parity. For students with a range of both low and high reading skills, reflective learning plus peer and self-assessment offer a rich learning experience as they teach them to evaluate their work and work in a supported and shared atmosphere. Tiered learning with associated resources was the main approach of differentiation I used during the creative writing lesson. Tiered education is the practice of teachers making minor adjustments within a single class to meet the needs of different students. The same fundamental knowledge and abilities are taught to students, but in various methods and through various activities. The tiers must provide adequate challenges for students at their current ability levels. Low, moderate, and high are the 3 categories of difficulty. Specific vocabulary lists, writing prompts, The novel To Kill a Mockingbird for reference and persuasive text samples from the prior sessions are all resources to help promote the achievement of all students in this lesson. Students who struggle might request modifications such as more time or support during the individual component. Students who are capable of going above and beyond the call of duty might extend the persuasive text by further relating the novel's plot to real-world perspectives or experiences and by highlighting how the novel's core ideas still hold true. According to Ross Green's theory, children do well if they can, and I think equipping students with knowledge, skills and resources they need to succeed will help them. The persuasive text and product, the assessment for learning, exhorts students to evaluate their learning for themselves and make change in light of both peer evaluation and their own self-reflection. The teacher will examine students' reading skills and understanding through formative assessment. According to Pendergast, Main and Barr, formative assessment is a method that enables teachers to modify instructional learning practices to increase or extend student learning by assessing student subject and ability readiness. With the tiering of the resource and the delivery of the lesson, this writing assignment is created to strongly support the broad range of students' demands within the class, catering to low, moderate and high literacy levels. We all know how it is important to understand your students' learning styles. Thus, whenever possible, it should be taken advantage of to be adaptable and modify lessons as necessary. I trust that this has been an informative presentation for your viewing.